Afternoon, everyone. We're going to talk about some old new models for convocation. Not really super new ideas, but something that I haven't discussed before. And due to squad goals being the team tournament I am preparing for, some of the models I typically take have been snatched away from me by others, which is fine. And so we are exploring maybe some other options that might even make it into the main roster or the unteam roster. Um, and some of them that aren't surprising. I mean, two of the ones we're going to talk about are convocation models. One I used in the past a little bit, one I've rarely used. But yeah, let's just start with Nick Fury. So the big one I've lost is I lost Rhino. So I lost Rhino. Um, to Curtis. It's fine. I told him he could have it. I was tired of him making dumbass lists that didn't seem to work well. And I said, if Rhino is what gets you on the good stuff, then you can have him. Because honestly, I think Rhino's amazing for convocation. I think he's an amazing model. Period. I do think he's better served in like Hellfire if you had to choose, and that we have some options we can take to kind of fill the gap. And so Nick Fury is one who I've respected the Nick Fury users. I've been anti Nick Fury out of principle for whatever reason, but given the losing Rhino and thinking more through situations, I'm going to test him. And so I think one thing, when it comes to list building, that maybe people know it, but it really is like you could play MCP. I could play MCP Wizards with like 7 models, probably 7 or 8. And so for those 9th and 10th spots, I feel like you take a lot of time to think about what they should be, but they're usually niche and they fill cases that you don't really. They're niche. That's the best way to put it. Is there are sometimes niche ones. So a general list building thing I want to mention is like I think people go through and they rotate their 9th and 10th slot a bunch, and sometimes it just doesn't come up that you use them. Sometimes, I don't even know how to put it. Just like don't overthink it. Play enough reps with your team to know what you need in that spot, and then really start thinking about point values and situations of when you might use these. I think Curtis does a good example of this, and I think his is a little more. He's a bit more blueprint oriented list builder in not a bad way, but especially in Hellfire where you don't have any affiliation limitations. You can say, I need a pay to flip 4 here, right? And I need a model that's good at pay to flips, that's a 4 threat, and at least has the layer of I don't even have to worry if it's affiliated or not because everything's affiliated. So I think with other affiliations, you have a little bit. You can still do that, but it's a little bit maybe more nuanced or whatnot. And so a lot of it comes down to, and I think people don't think about this a lot, is what crisis are you taking in the point values, right? I think people imagine point values in this game, you could be any threat, could be anywhere. But in any particular crisis pairing, you only have 2 threat levels, and sometimes they're the same. So, a very simplistic example would be you're never going to play Gamma Hammers at 20. You can't. So you don't need a Gamma Hammer 20 plan. And to bring it even more, you can say to yourself, okay, I have my secures and I have my extracts, right? Let's just make the bold claim that you will always pick your secures. Just make a bold claim. You'll always pick your secures. You could make the case that, you're almost always going to play, and a lot of enemies do the same. So let's just say the enemies are going to pick their secures as well. A lot of games you're going to play on your extract values. And the case being the other way. There's a lot of games where you're going to be playing with your opponent's extract values, assuming they don't want to pick your secure values. And what I kind of am getting at is and this will kind of be where it leads with when we talk about the model specifically. But let's just say, for example, I hate 17. I personally don't like it. I have teams that are fine at 17. I just don't like playing it. I like 19s and 20s. I like high points, high threats, because that's where I can bring Ultron and MODOK and stuff better. That's why all my Secures are 19s and 20s. But let's just say, man, Spider Infected is super annoying. I mean, some convocation people take it like Jim, and I think that's another discussion about like what's your plan A, what's your plan B, what do you want your list to do, how do you like to play. If I don't like to play on D shapes and Spider Infected, even though I know convocation can do it well, I don't take them. I have plans for them if I get put on them, but I don't actively try to do it. So Spider Infected is one I don't like to play with convocation, but I can start planning of what if I do play it. Well, if I do play it, I will be playing it on my Secures because I don't take it myself. So that's one. I'm probably going to have priority, right? Probably going to have priority because it'll probably be them picking me picking my Secures and then getting Spider Infected. And then I know that I'm either going to play on 15, 19, or 20 because that is my point values, or I'm going to play on their 17. If I'm playing on 17, it is on Spider Infected cubes or the alien ship. Those are the only 317 extracts. And 90% of the time, no matter what, if I have to choose, I will have a 15, a 20, or a 19 to pick from. And I probably will never pick 17 in those situations. So, I know that. I'll never have to play like other weird point value stuff. So if I get stuck on... So, said further, if I get stuck on 17 Spider Infected, I know I'm on my Secures and I know I have priority. That is a fair statement I can make. And so with that knowledge, you can build teams and build splashes for those situations with more than just what's my 17 Spider Infected or what's my 17. It's what's my 17 Spider Infected with priority on my Secures. And then obviously my Secures being Gamma, Demons, and Scoundrels right now, it's a big difference whether you get Scoundrels or Gamma. But, you can kind of lean that in list building. And all that to kind of just say, as we look at splashes and as we try to replace Rhino and stuff like that, that is very important to the conversation I'm going to have about, like, Fury, for example. So Fury is not my plan A. I do not want to actively go out and seek playing Fury games most of the time because of my Secures don't really ask for that at all. But I can do it. And so why is Fury an interesting splash? Well, Fury is an interesting splash, and it was popularized, I'd say, by Leaf from Canada. I don't know if anyone else... I know some people in the Taco Discord are kind of like... are friends with Leaf, like, copy it. But I think he was one of the ones... he uses him all the time. And what he does is he does very aggressive steals with him. Or grabs. And the idea being, at least from what I understand, the idea being is that you can aggressively get up on extracts and use the bump and the aspect of Fury grunts to kind of stay alive and keep that lead for the rest of the game. A good example is him playing Deaton in the finals of 2 seasons ago, where it was Sam versus this convocation, and he did that. He grabbed a bunch of extracts, and Deaton basically had to chase him down. Leaf ended up losing. I thought he had a good chance to win, but I think he was personally speaking, Leaf's a great player, obviously. I thought he was way too running away. I thought he could have not run to the back of the board. I think what happens to some people is, and it's kind of what happened to Jim in his Top Cuts game, not with Fury, is you get up on extracts and you start to run for the edges of the boards, and then you just maybe barely lose. They still had chances to win, but maybe you just barely lose because you weren't aggressive enough and you thought you could just run away and make it, and then they barely squeak it out. I don't like playing that way personally that much, but I understand it can work very effectively. And so Fury is really good for that. So the big reason is, one, you have grunts that can pick up extracts. They're them and the Daredevil one, Shadowlands Daredevil ones can. But the big part about why Fury grunts are better at it is they get to drop the extract when you kill them. So think about diving a midline or a back F. It feels very far. But they can get to somebody's back spider, pick it up. So now you have their base, right? So you pick it up at 1, they're 2 inches, and they put it range 3 back. Like, they put it like 6 inches behind them. Like, I think it's far enough that you can go measured in TTS, like picking up a midline or a back F and then dropping it yourself. Just look how far back it is. Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, Strange can walk on, like, a Scoundrel and pick up the dropped extract of a Fury Grunt. So it's almost like a way to, like, transport it back to you pretty easily. And so you can do things like Nick grabs the middle one. Like, if you're on spiders, right? Let's just say you're on spiders with any shape. I mean, I guess in mine would be either an E shape or Scoundrels. You go grab their back F with Fury Grunts. You grab the mid one with Fury. Now Fury sitting in cover in the middle with a decent stat line, 4-3-4 with 6. The Grunts grab a side one. Okay, now they're forced to start doing stuff. They have to kill the Grunts. The Grunts get to drop it. They might not be able to pick it up. You can pick it up with somebody else. If they attack Fury, he gets the bump. So, he could bump out of range if you deem that he's in a lot of threat. He's in cover turn 1, so maybe it's not a big deal. You have Wong that can heal him if you need to. You can choose not to give somebody power with Wong, and instead you could walk him to a back Scoundrel and then heal Fury if he gets hit. So, you might end the turn with maybe the Grunts died, but Fury is on full health, and the back spider is at least dropped towards you, and maybe even picked up by somebody on your team to where you're up 4-1 in spiders, because now they either have to dive one of yours, or, they just give up and say, all right, well, you get 4 of them. And that's a very tough hole to be in turn 1. Especially at low point values where you might not have enough activations to really, if you think about Scoundrels 17, for example, you're probably, 5 wide, maybe 6 if you're spiders, or webs. And you have to commit somebody to killing the Grunts, and then somebody has to go pick it up that it's probably, and it's across the midline. And then you still have Strange and whoever else you're taking potentially on your side to go be annoying. I don't know. It can be annoying and tough. Same with centers. You just go steal 2 of their centers. You bump backwards if you need to. Now all of a sudden they have to go get yours. So I think it's a good scenario option depending on the setups. In D-shaped maps where there's maybe one in the middle like Virus, the Grunts are actually pretty good to go get it because you're not even sacrificing a model. Like, you're not sacrificing somebody that can stand on a secure to go get it. You can walk and get it. And if they die, I'm like 99% sure that somebody can walk and pick it back up. And maybe I should set this up to see. So give me a second. All right, I'm back and I've set up a TTS map just to kind of show you what I was talking about. So, you can reach a back F with the Grunts, right? Double walk, and then just look how close, like, this gets, right? Like, it's right on the back Scoundrel. Look, I mean, it's just so far. I mean, this is a midline one, so it's an inch or so farther, inch and a half back or something. Like, it's really, like, obnoxious to put it back there. Especially since you can walk up a model here and pick it up. Now, if I want to do something, I should probably have done this beforehand. Let's just do portals. It's fine. The one thing I was talking about before is if you got, like, spider-infected portals, if you go and take the mid one with the Grunts, right? And then Fury goes, let's just say Fury's up here. Let's say it was like a Virus or something, right? So Fury takes ones on the side. He's on the side. You still have your bump. They take this one. If they kill it, you just drop it back here. And even Wong can walk up and pick it up and still sit on the back point. And if they don't kill the Grunts, you just walk them away. And now you have an extract on a Grunt. So that's the idea behind it. At least in my theory. I haven't played it enough. Yeah, so going back to Fury himself. So that's the idea behind what the Grunts do. They can drop it on their own. They have 2 health, blah, blah, blah. So let's just look at him as a character. Because I feel like you have to do more than just, drop extracts to be good. So he's 4-3-4 with 6 and 4 on the back. I think it's the only difference between the two sides. Let's make sure. Yes. He has a 5 dice Pierce, range 3. I mean, it's not great for a 4, but it's not bad for a 4. I mean, to be fair, Ancient One has a 5 dice Pierce Mystic that's range 2. He only gets 1 power for it, but that's actually probably potentially even better for him just because the way his power works. He has a range 2 5 dice Pierce with Bleed. I mean, that's a X23 attack. He has a good spender. We'll talk about that in a second. He can bring the grunts back with 2 power, so that's not even bad either, right? If he's getting attacked or something, there's a good, pretty decent way, or if he gets to get an attack off, he can pretty much get the grunts back pretty easily, which is really nice. It's also nice that they can pick up extracts when they drop. So there's 2 reasons. One, if one's on the ground somewhere, you can just place them and grab it right away, and it's basically that's their activation for them. And the other thing is just, if you have a spider and you kill somebody, spider user or senators or something, you can bring the grunts down after you kill them, and then they can pick it up, even though he has one. So it's kind of nice for cleaning up and being, if you've ever killed somebody with an extract and you have one and you have to leave it on the ground for a turn and worry about them like picking it up with one of their models, he can kind of solve that. The shield leadership doesn't matter. When an allied shield agent's character is within 3 of this character, it may reroll one of its attack or defense dice, and this character gains 1 power whenever this character deals separate damage from any effect. So if they kill your grunts and you're close to them, you get power, so it's easier to get them back. If your grunts do damage, they get a reroll, and you get power. And so I think that's where kind of some of the sneaky, maybe not even sneaky, but sneaky damage from, and maybe the pain you put your opponents in is, one, your grunts don't come back staggered, but they can't come back out of activation, so they're not going to get to shoot the turn if they died in the beforehand. But if they leave them alone, they are 4 dice, range 3, basic grunt stuff. But they get 1 reroll because of him. They give power to him if they do it. And if you look at his 3-cost spender, it's range 3, 7 dice physical, and the grunts get to move and make an attack on the enemy. So if they leave the grunts alive, you could have an activation that is 4 dice with a reroll, 4 dice with a reroll, 7 dice, 4 dice with a reroll, 4 dice, 7 dice, 4 dice with a reroll. That costs 6 power. But if any of your 4 dice with a rerolls do damage, you get a power. So it's very easily that you could start the turn with 3 or 4 power and end up doing 6 attacks, 4 of which are 4 dice with a reroll and 2 of which are 7 dice, which is a lot of damage for a 4 threat. It's definitely not nothing. And you have the added bonus of in Convocation where, because holding extracts is so good, and if you have the lead, they have to do something. It's a pretty easy way to reset books, where you're just like, here, I have my grunts out. Are you going to kill them and reset books or not? They might just have to sometimes. And so that's the idea behind him. I think it's to get an extract lead, a scenario lead, and then kind of fall back and say, all right, now you have to come into me, and I have things like Ancient One or Voodoo or Strange who can not only attack decent well if you come into them, they're not like super weak like maybe like a beast or something is, but they can also steal back and displace you. You might you come in and then Strange just teleports you out. Does some damage, key days, and teleports everyone else out. And so they can just really make like a goalie very difficult to come in. And if you think about, if you're facing a pure attrition team and stuff, you might not want this setup. But if you're against something like Webs or Hellfire that doesn't really, Webs attack fine. Webs aren't the best example, but if you're attacking like Hellfire that take like Lizard and Bill and stuff, if you get that lead, they might not be ready to come in and come at you, right? They might have been like, oh, I'm going to be a potato and take some points and get up and be good. And all of a sudden you get a lead and now they have to come at you, and Lizard and whatnot isn't enough to break through you, especially when you get to like teleport them away and whatnot. So that's the idea behind Fury. There's really not a ton. It's not anything. It's not super special. You just have to be willing to go and cause a mess. Um, I know Leaf does it all the time with multiple factions. You know, he's done it in A Force. He's done it in Hellfire. He's done it. He's done it wherever. He likes doing this style, and I think it has a lot of gas. As in, like sometimes your first turn is like 6-3 or something. But if the enemy, I do think if the enemy knows what they're doing, it teeters. I think if the enemy isn't as good, like you could just win because they don't know how to attack you and they're too scared to come get you, or they don't know how to punish your aggressiveness, especially if you steal like their senators and stuff like that. I do think it's a very viable strategy, obviously, but I do think it feels probably better against weaker players, as most things do, just because they're more likely to sit back and not punish it, and then it's easier. It's easier. I think that's kind of a weird thing. Like I think you see a lot of people who do very well with like objective play stuff, and I think objective play, Wakanda stealing stuff, Hellfire stuff is very strong, and it's always going to be strong. But I think it works better against what's the word? And maybe this is wrong, but I think if you're a really good player versus a weaker player, probably being really good at objective play and have a good objective team is easier to win with because you have all the control and you're depending on them to like know how to kind of come at you and beat you. Whereas if you play attrition and it's just like and you make an attrition battle, like you really do make it not I don't want to say more about dice because I don't think that's fair, but I think you give maybe more opportunity for something. I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess I feel like there are people who play very objective focused teams well and they do very well, and maybe sometimes I watch them play and I'm just like, oh, I thought this would be more exciting. I thought there was something deeper there. And when they play other good players, either objective or attrition based, it does lend itself to more interesting. But I don't know. I'm not trying to shit talk anyone there. It's just something I noticed. But I think Nick Fury kind of fills that role, and he's never going to be played with Ultron. I think from a grunt perspective, like you would never. Sure, if you could take double grunts, it would be interesting to have both. But I think the teams and the situations you play Ultron are not the situations you play Nick Fury. So, for example, you're on, I don't know, Senators. You're on Senators spider portals or something, which I guess could happen if they. Yeah, this actually could happen. If you're on Senator spider portals like 19, you don't want Ultron here. You don't want him stuck on a side portal, or just even an extremist or something. You don't want him stuck on a side portal with a senator not being able to do anything. Most likely, I've played it. I've done it. You probably want something more scenario based, and because you're gonna have in this situation you'd have most likely have a priority because you would have never picked your extracts, and you can go steal some. Right, you steal some senators. And you probably take a team of like Strange, Wong, Voodoo, Nick, and see this is where if I had a Rhino, I actually think Rhino is really strong here too. I actually think a scenario 19 of Wong, Strange, Voodoo, Rhino, Nick Fury is potentially really strong at 19 because not only do you have grunts to pick up extracts, you have 2 steals, you have a lot of mobility in Rhino, and you have Strange who's mobile and can teleport people away. And so not only do you get the lead potentially, turn 1, but you can threaten people who come in you can almost enhance the lead or have like these goalies who say, all right, oh, you stole one from the grunts, I'm going to steal it back with Rhino and keep the lead up and rotate around. I think given that Rhino's not on my team, it would be somebody like Ancient One. And we'll talk about Ancient One next because we just talked about Nick. So Nick's in there. I think he comes in play. Like Rhino did get played with Ultron sometimes at high threat values. I think Nick obviously will never. I think he's there for like either going 6 wide or which we'll talk about in a second. Let's talk about Ancient One next because she's one I've talked about before, and I'm not like excited. I'm not inspired by her, but I need to just talk about her a little bit. She's a 4 threat. She's affiliated. I need to play her more. She probably comes in more with like the Nick setups, especially since I have some card slots open up. I can put Plains of Poldock back in, and she is good with it. And so, running teams of like string, like it's weird to me to not splash everything. So sitting here being like, oh yeah, I'll run a team of Strange, Voodoo, Wong, Ancient One. That's 15, and I'll add Nick. Like feels weird that it's not 2 splashes, but here we're at this world now. I mean, there's not a ton to say. I think the reason she's kind of coming to light is when I lost Rhino, I had a really strong 20 that I liked on Scoundrels, of Strange, Ultron, Wong, Voodoo, Rhino. And I need somebody to fill Rhino's spot. And she's not Rhino, but I think given how a lot of those games went, I don't think she's a horrible like sub-in. She's pretty good on Scoundrels. Um, you know, she can attack. One thing that I kind of like about her, especially in maybe the steal plan with Nick, is if somebody dives your back F, which is like what here-ish, 2-inch place does get you on it, so she could double tap anybody who dives your back F, which is something to be wary of. So like for example, I did the Nick thing. I dove the back F. I dove the middle. They dove my back F, and I only had Voodoo here, and he had to walk and attack them. And in theory, if I set it up better with my Ancient One, I could have put Ancient One in front and said, all right, if you dive this one, Ancient One's right there, and she can just double tap you on it and potentially just kill you turn 1. So she does have that going for her. Really good spender. 8 dice, no crits for the enemy, and stagger. There's something I've mentioned this before. I'm not always the biggest fan of stagger, big ass stagger spenders, because a lot of times you're doing it to kill them, and so the stagger doesn't matter. But because this attack does do a lot of damage, like 8 with no crits for them, and then potentially Plains of Poldock for you. I mean, 8 dice reroll all against Mystic, which is usually bad. Like it can do some damage to Hulk. Like you could easily put a bunch of damage on Hulk and stagger him in one activation. And she generates 2 power turns, so it's not crazy to have it up turn 2. Just a scary spender to go against. I mean, stagger is always good, even if you don't kill them. It can really neuter them and then maybe set up for a kill the next turn. 2-inch place is never bad. I wish Winds of Watt Tome was a little bit less power. I haven't played her enough to know if she's going to be flush with power enough to do this. Like maybe if you're hitting your pierces and doing a lot of damage, you're flush with power. But she does get to pull somebody that kind of makes her pretty good on Scoundrels. I think it's one of those sneaky little things that, for example, you go and fight somebody on a Scoundrel, right? You're having a little one-on-one on a Scoundrel. Not only are you pretty good just being, a 5-dice Mystic Piercer, but if they attack you, you can drag them off the Scoundrel, and not only are they not scoring it now, but you get cover for it. So, like, it's actually very obnoxious to attack her because she might just pull you off secures. She gets to reroll 2 defense dice and dodge dice. She has martial artist of 2 inches, so you can pull people into martial artist. And honestly, she's probably one of the best convocation against mystic against energies, because you can pull people closer to get martial artist, and then 3 dice 2 rerolls counting blanks is like 2 to 3 blocks on average. 2 dice reroll all martial artist is very similar to 5 dice. Like, just pure 5 dice defense. So, I think it's underrated maybe how tanky she can be. Obviously, if she was 3/3/5 would be even better. On Bookstern, she's 5 with 2 rerolls. I mean, it's not as good as, like, the Strange versions and all the others, but, I mean, you could have a team with a lot of... I mean, these Books teams are obnoxious, especially if you can continue keeping Books up for as long as you can. It's easier under MODOK. With MODOK and Ultron, you can keep it up for a long time. But just having more people good at it is good. Is she 5 on the back? Oh, she's 6'6" at least. Jeez, okay. So yeah, I'm tempted to use her more. I don't think she's breaking the world, but in Convocation, she has books. You can take Plains of Poldock, and she can use Bane and stuff like that, and she'll have to fill the role, and I'll see if it works. I don't have Rhino. And she also opens up a card slot. I mean, that's the other thing, too. Like, there's a lot of games where Rhino Steel wasn't, like, my plan A. Like, if I'm taking Ultron and Strange and Voodoo and stuff, like, I don't have to have 2 Steel. Sometimes I'm just killing people. And so she can do that. And I'm 95% sure she gets the back F. Yeah, she can get on somebody's back F with the place. She can also, like, she's good on D maps because she can rotate a lot. And, you know, this is where, like, knowing ranges is always, like, super useful. So, for example, something she can do that somebody like Voodoo can't do is turn 1, she can walk, place, right, onto this. And so she can always get somebody who's standing here. So she's always a threat to it, similar to Logan. Obviously, she's not Logan, but I don't have Logan. So that's nice that she can threaten doing that, which is always the nice 2-for-1ers where you get on the objective and you get to attack them. And I don't know if she can rotate. I don't think she can get all the way. Maybe if you, let's just see. I think maybe if you put yourself here. So if you're within 1 of an objective, you are in range of 2 of anybody on it as well. So if you think about it like this, she's always, if she's within 1, she can attack anybody on it. Let's see if she makes it to objective with the place. I feel like closest to closest she would. I mean, it looks like she does. Maybe not. Maybe she does. Looks like she does. So that's something to note too. If you stay on the inside, right? So she can basically cover both of these Ds and get back and forth between them and still make an attack. So you can either, you know, start here, and then walk, place, attack, and then if you need to, attack, walk, place to this one. So you basically get 2 attacks and get away. Obviously, if you start going this way, you're going to need to move probably. In fact, I don't even know. This is where, like, I don't know all the ranges, but this is where on D-shape, like, understanding the ranges is really important because maybe it does work. Ooh, does it work? I don't know. No, I think it's just short. Shit. What if we go down a little bit? I'm trying to, like, I don't think, what I'm trying to measure here is, which is really not easy, but it seems not doable, is I'm trying to say, is there any way you can go from this one to this one to this one in 2 turns with only 1 move? And I feel like you just don't get far enough to do it, which is fine. It's not really that important. You'll find other ways to do it, but it's good to know. It's good to know. Okay, cool. So she can do that. She can get on a back F. She can pull people off. Like, that's always the thing, too, like, that's kind of cool is if people want to fight her on it and it's late in the turn, she might even get martial artist and pull them off an objective, and so that could be a lot of points. So I think that's undervalued. You know, Rhino kind of just does his thing, and he's very good, and maybe she's just underutilized, and maybe just takes a little bit more finesse to use, and maybe I can pull something out of her. All right. So those are those guys. The last one I want to talk about is Magik. So I'm not a Magik lover. I'm in fact not even a... So I am a known Convocation 3 hater. And I, even like Taskmaster, who I run in my list for 3, I'm not even a, like, oh my god, I'm so happy I have Taskmaster in my list. It's that I need a 3. And so I had Lizard in my list. And I think I'm giving him up for one of my teammates. But at the also time, too, I was talking about it. And this is comes with conversations about your list and when are you going to use things. I was like, man, when am I ever going to really use Lizard? Right? Like, he's a great 3. But is he a great 3 for what I want to do? And when I'm going to use him? And I don't know if he is. I don't know if he does what I need him to do all the time. He can drop back. I mean, I understand why Convocation use him. I totally get it. It's more of like, because that's not my plan A, maybe I don't need him. And so the current list I'm testing has Lizard and now Lizard's gone, it's Taskmaster and Magik, which feels like I feel wrong even saying it. But the reasoning is that are there cases where I would use Taskmaster as Lizard in some aspects, like running and getting a midline and being able to bump back and being tanky. But at the same time, having Magik and Taskmaster opens up 6-wide options where I otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So, for example, you're playing Scoundrels against Webs at 20. I have a team I like to play at 20, and I wish I had it set up here, which is like the Ultron team I talked about. And maybe you say, well, maybe Ultron isn't good enough versus Webs on Scoundrels because it's just too spread out, too much cover and stuff like that. And I just can't compete with 7 wide or something. I've done it before. I don't know what Curtis acts like I can't do it, but I've done it. But now you could maybe make a 6-wide team and put in Fury, depending on the extracts, and say, all right, well, now I'm basically 7 wide because I have an extract carrying Grunt. And you can do something like Strange Magik. Do I need 2 3s for this? Maybe I only need 1 3 for this wide. I guess 2 3s would be 6 wide at 19. Because you could do Strange, Magik, Taskmaster, Wong, Fury, Bullseye. That's a 19. That's 6 wide. I don't know if you ever play that one, but that's not a bad one. I mean, it's an option at least. I'm just spitballing. I think I'm just spitballing. I have no idea if I'd ever play that 19. It gives you the option that Lizard doesn't give you. That's pretty much why I would maybe take Magik and Taskmaster over like one of the 2 in Lizard. It also gives you a little bit more variety even in your 19. We talked about a 19 I like on E-Maps. Magik Wong, or Magik 3. Blah, 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 blah. I'll get it. Supreme Strange, Ultron 2, MODOK 2, Wong, and a 3. Usually the 3 is Taskmaster. I was even considering going back to Mordo and trying things. Magik's an option too. And I guess the reason being a couple things. One is, in that team, you get books up all the time. It's like constantly up because of MODOK and sacrificing and throws and stuff and grunts. She's one of the better ones with books. She's 3/3/4, but Mordo's 2/4/4, 2/4/4, so, and she has reverse pierce. So now you're talking everybody but Wong has reverse pierce, double wilds, or count blanks, which is hella annoying. She is both long range, but also better up close than think of this matchup. She's better versus Webs, so she's a better 3 versus Webs if you ever play Webs. She's a better 3 probably versus defenders, because then Taskmaster, because she has mystic attacks, and she kills Daredevil almost as well as Strange kills Daredevil, to be completely honest with you. And she's a really good spender. She is a really good spender. And she has a movement with limbo steps. So sure, she's not as tanky as Taskmaster is standing on the front line, but she can kind of be in that mid. She can play back turn 1, maybe throw out a range 4, get a power, and then turn 2, teleport up, double attack with her 5 dice pierce, which is as good as Strange is, except for the rerolls, and then get, whatever. Or do her spender and have a 6 dice, counting skulls on both sides, and bleed and incinerate auto. These are good attacks. And you don't really care about your 3. If they die, they die. I've never been oh my god, Taskmaster, how could you not? I think maybe, where Taskmaster has tankiness of maybe go and grab a midline thing or something, she's not as tanky. She's really good with books, which is really nice. But I feel like Magik with a lot of power, if she gets dazed or if she happens to do a good hit, is much scarier than Taskmaster with a lot of power. Taskmaster has 2, maybe 8 dice spenders he can do, and that only costs 2 power each, and they're good. I mean, I've killed things with it, but I feel her spender is much stronger, obviously. In range 3 is a lot better. 6 dice, auto incinerate, counting skulls on both sides. She's one that she'll help the attrition. She'll help the battle more than maybe a Taskmaster. If it's a really big brawl, I'd probably rather have her. And they die the same, whatever. If they die, they die. He's still very good. There are still matchups I would take him. But there are times where I'm just oh, she's fine. Why not? I didn't take her because of some of them. but I'm sure she's fine. And then sometimes you take both, and then you have the option for either. She's also pretty good with. You'll never have Plains of Podok in that matchup. She can also, I guess, two things. The other thing I'll give her over Taskmaster, and I still like him, is she can play books, and she can play Ban Dalimba. So just being able to, like, I think Strange is still slightly more range, but she could walk, place one, Bane of Dalimba, off her like bolts of oath. This attack if she rolls the thing, which is pretty good. What's the range on that? I mean, that's not bad, right? Can she get to a midline with this thing? I've always wondered. No, if Ancient One can't do it, she can't do it. No, she can't. But I mean, she has like this much range. Like if you really wanted to go for like if somebody was sitting here, would she get to him? Let's see. Let's assume. I guess it would be Nick. Clone. Let's put one here. All right, so she's back here. Like if somebody's sitting on their back gamma, how far can she reach if she does this? I mean, Strange can do this too, but maybe you just do it without Strange. She can go here. She can bump here. She's range 4. Shit, look at that. Man, you have a lot of room. Okay, so... Like, that's something, too, like, people might not see coming, is... Normally people do it with Strange, which he can do it with his range 5, but if he wants... Like, if somebody's just sitting here on their back gamma, like, maybe you walk, bump, hit them with a 4-dice attack, and say, alright, I'm always going to get the power back. So you can always Bane if you roll the wild or crit, or wild or hit, and I don't know what the chances of rolling a wild or hit on 4 dice, but I'm sure it's pretty good when it's it's 3 of the facings and you get 4 shots at it. Like, and if you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. Like, you moved up and you attacked. You used your place is probably the most annoying thing. So it depends on the, just that early, like, maybe annoying threat stuff. I think the place is probably better than I give credit for. I haven't used her in a long time. I used to use her a lot. And the only reason I really dropped her is because I dropped all my 3s. She was in my list, and then when I went to the Cabal side, I dropped all my affiliated 3s, and then when I came back, I used Task. So, I'm excited to try her again. Again, I'm not here to be, like, super excited by my 3s, but she has some uses. I don't think I'd use her card. Maybe it's in my 10. I don't know. I have a spot open. I don't know what to use it on. But, yeah. That's where we're at right now. We'll see. I mean, I think right now my 10 is this. This is the current 10 I'm trying. Obviously, Rhino's gone. Somebody else has Toad, so I'm trying Bullseye. Okay, so that's the comment I want to make is I've played the 17 with Toad where it's like what Jim played, where it's like Rhino, Toad, Wong, Strange, Voodoo. And I think it is good. I also think that sometimes it sucks to have Toad and Wong because they don't do enough. And having a 2 that does do attacks can be useful if you need to kill something and they don't want to stand in the same spot. So partly because somebody else has Toad on my team, but partly just because I think my style, I'd rather have a 2 that does some damage. I am trying Bullseye as a 2 so you can go like 5 away at 17 with like Strange, Voodoo, Nick Fury, Wong, Bullseye, which has some play for sure if you want to go 5 wide at that point level. And I've done it before with the Rhino version, and it was fine. 2's a 2. Like sure, Toad is slipperier, no pun intended, and get away more, but you give power to Bullseye and he does hit like a 3 or 4 sometimes, and Toad can't do that. So I think when you have Wong as your other 2, sometimes, at least in my opinion, for myself, it feels worse to have Toad. I also don't think I played Toad as well as... I didn't play him a lot. I probably played him like 2 games. Play him as well as like the way Jim uses him to where I got... Yeah, anyway, that's the point being is that's the team right now. If it was unrestricted and I could bring back anybody. That's where it actually gets hard because I have to decide: do I need 2 3s or do I just roll with one of them? Because I don't go 6 wide very often, but I can have the option at 19. It really is only 19 because at 20 you don't even need the second 3. At 20 you just go like Strange, Voodoo, Magic, Wong is 9, 14, and then you go Bullseye, Fury, or for example. And so you lose a 6 wide 19, but maybe Ancient One is good enough that you want to keep her, but maybe you want Rhino. I don't know. It's actually very difficult. Like, I feel like this team plus Rhino covers a lot of bases. And I feel like losing the second, it almost like it feels like it has to be one of the 3s. You put in Rhino, and you're probably sitting at like a pretty good team. Was I running something like this before? I think I was running something. What did I have before everyone took? I had Lizard. Yeah, fuck Lizard. Just run a 3 you can run all the time. When are you running double 3s? 17 with 2 3s. Is that a thing? That was a thing back in the day. Yeah, I mean that's something you can do. You can run like Strange, Voodoo, Wong, Magic, Taskmaster. I guess I was doing like Zemo. Zemo was taken from me, so Zemo might have been there for like Magic Zemo at 17. But maybe the 2 2s just do it just fine. Like a 2 2s and a 4, like a 2 4 is better than a 3 3 in this case because the 3s kind of suck. So like, is Rhino Bullseye better than Magic Lizard? Probably. Maybe that was my thinking. So I could see dropping one of the 2 3s for Rhino, and that being a pretty solid like 10. Can cover a lot of bases. Plays 19s in the midline very well. Has options to move to 19, 17s on the wide ones. You don't know which kind of extract you're getting. Again, Magic is good versus a lot of the meta out there. We talk about mystic attackers and people hating playing against them with webs and defenders and whatnot. And having a 3 threat mystic attacker that hits like the 5 threat and the 4 threats, or maybe even better, if she has full power, she hits harder than Strange for the turn you need her to. And activating her first is probably pretty good. Like, that's, I mean, Plains of Pollock into her spender is 6 dice, counting skulls on both sides. Like, that's pretty good. I'm going to just say it right now. That's pretty good. And she can bump away if she needs to, or bump into it. I mean, that's the other thing, too. Like, if she's sitting on 10 power, she can bump 2 and do a double range 3 spender of 6 dice, counting skulls with Incinerate on the second one. It might just kill something. Like, it really could. And if you don't care a lot about your 3, like, that's the end-all statement I'll make about 3s. Like, as I shift through them and go through different ones, they don't ever do anything amazing. You can always claim, like, Magic's better here, and Taskmaster's better here, and this is better here. And at the end of the day, like, it's not, your game plan at 19 does not revolve around what your 3 can do. It's what your 5s and your 4 does. And so pick one that you think will do things you want to do. Having both of them opens up options if you're playing like defenders. Like, the fact that she can fuck up Daredevil, like, that's the kind of thing. People talk about defenders, and sure, having Mystic Attack Strange on Daredevil is great, but the rest of the team doesn't have Mystic Attacks other than MODOK Spender. So having a 3 that attacks Mystic has a lot of bonuses when you're against like X23s and stuff like that. Like, you have another layer of Mystic attackers to kind of help you out. Even if you ran an all convo 17, is that even, or 18? That's 18. I don't know if I'd ever run that. We're not going to talk about that. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll keep you updated on how it's going.